Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Sawtooth Tactical, and we've had a couple of very big wins in the last couple of weeks. Wins on pistol braces, wins on bump stocks. So last week, I put out a video on Sunday. I had already recorded it about pistol braces and the fact that the ATF was trying to come after them again, and that we were going to hear oral arguments on all of the pistol brace cases on August 5th. Well, between the time that I recorded that video and the time that it came out, Judge Reed O'Connor vacated the rule. And that's a big deal. Now, does this mean that this is the end of the pistol brace rule as we know it? Not necessarily, and we're going to get into that. But the other big one was bump stocks. The Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, has declared that bump stocks are not machine guns, which, duh, we knew that all along. But if these two things are interesting to you, and they should be, because even if you're not interested in bump stocks, this has much broader implications. Make sure you're subscribed, and let's talk about it. So really quickly, before we get into the bump stock thing and what it means for, honestly, the Second Amendment as a whole, the pistol brace thing. So I did this video, and then of course the news changed. And I did put an update in the description of that video, but we will still be hearing the courts will still be hearing oral arguments about the pistol brace rules, about all cases surrounding ATF's pistol brace rule on August 5th. But before that happened, just last week, Judge Reed O'Connor did vacate the pistol brace rule, which basically puts it back to as if it never really existed. Now, of course, is the government going to appeal that? Yeah, they probably are. Because for some reason, they would rather spend their time, their energy, their resources going after the way law-abiding citizens set up their firearms than going after violent criminals. And that seems to be a common theme amongst the ATF and amongst all these rule changes that we constantly see. But speaking of those rule changes, the bump stock ban. Now this is a Trump era ban. Former President Donald Trump told the ATF to ban bump stocks. And so they did. Well, I don't really care all that much about bump stocks specifically as a thing. And I'm sure some people do, but a lot of people probably feel the same way that I do. There are tons of other things that I would rather spend my money on than bump stocks. To be quite honest, bump fire is a fun novelty, but it's not really something that you have a whole lot of control over. You can't be super accurate and precise bump firing. And that's kind of the whole point. It's not the same as automatic fire. Now, a lot of people will argue that automatic fire itself is not super precise and accurate. And compared to semi-automatic trigger pulls, you're probably right. But it's still more accurate than harnessing the recoil of the gun to keep it continuing to fire, because just by doing that, the gun is moving back and forth, keeping your sights on target while that is happening. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. But that's not really the point. So the whole bump stock ban kind of put into place a precedent where the ATF felt like they could do whatever they want, that they could just make rule changes and make things illegal by expanding the definition of certain things. Again, the whole reason I'm holding a pistol brace in this video. Expanding the definition of a shorter barreled firearm with a pistol brace to make that an SBR, a short barreled rifle, when this technically is not a stock, and words do matter. This is a brace, not a stock. Well, a bump stock is not a machine gun, and the Supreme Court just let everybody know that. And of course, all of the anti-gun liberals are big mad. I'd like to thank Aura, which is the sponsor of this video. Firearms can protect you and your family and your household from a lot of threats and provide you with a certain amount of security Well, Aura can provide you with security from the things that you don't see and protect you from those threats. I've been using it for a few months now. When I first got it, I Googled my name and there was a lot of stuff that came up. And then I signed up with Aura and I watched as they took each and every one of those things off of the internet so that my information wasn't out there anymore. They do a lot of things, including identity and credit monitoring, password manager, antivirus protection. They have a VPN, home title monitoring, and then the big one is data broker removal. As you guys probably already know, scammers are a huge part of life now, which really sucks. But the way that they get your information is from data brokers. And Aura goes out there and they find those data brokers that have your information and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, removing your information off the internet so that scammers don't have access to you anymore. The big thing that it's helped me with is I don't get spam calls anymore, and I've noticed that over these last few months that I've been using it. I just have stopped getting spam calls. If you want to support this channel, Sawtooth Tactical, the best way to do that is to sign up for Aura. You get 2 weeks free if you use my link, which is aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. And then it's only $12 a month for all of those things that I listed earlier. I really appreciate what Aura has done for the channel. And I appreciate that they sponsor firearms related channels. It says a lot to me about who they are. I value my privacy and I also value yours. Bump stocks are not machine guns though. That's the thing. Words matter. Single function of a trigger. So the definition of a machine gun has to do with the function of a trigger that the firearm fires automatically without manual reloading by the single function of a trigger. And with a bump stock, well, the trigger gets pulled each and every time. It's just that the recoil of the firearm moving back and forth is what makes those trigger pulls happen. So this is really good news that the Supreme Court used the actual definition of what a machine gun is and basically said that things that are not machine guns are not machine guns. This can have broader implications on a number of things. Just like this, it means that a brace is not a stock. It also means that a forced reset trigger is not a machine gun because every single time the bolt comes back, it forces a reset of the trigger. And when the bolt comes forward, you're able to pull the trigger again. Technically, it's just a fast semi-automatic trigger. It just helps you pull the trigger faster. And it doesn't even help you pull the trigger faster. It just forces the reset so that as long as you keep pressure on the trigger, you can continue to pull it every time that the firearm is back in battery. That is not a machine gun. You don't just hold the trigger to the rear and it automatically continues to fire. And so I think that this will have bigger implications when it comes to these things. Super safeties, forced reset triggers, all of these things that the ATF wants to go after people for, that the ATF says are machine guns, but by the technical definition are not, well, those things should be fine again. Now, of course, President Biden has already said, bring me a bill and I'll sign it. The Senate is already introducing bills to ban bump stocks. We'll see what happens there. But currently, the Supreme Court has said that bump stocks are not machine guns, and they are correct about that. Whether people want to, get all in their feelings, the Las Vegas mass shooting, one of the biggest ones ever, it was a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And, they say that the shooter used bump stocks. We don't even really know if that is true. But even if he did, that still doesn't make the bump stock a machine gun. And that's kind of the point. Just because you have feelings a certain way about something, because something terrible happened, doesn't mean you can make that thing illegal. If you drive a car through a crowd and kill a bunch of people, you can't go and make cars illegal because of the actions of one terrible person. So this is a big win for us. Whether you like bump stocks or even care about bump stocks or not, This is a big win for the Second Amendment. And we're lucky to have a Supreme Court right now that does believe in the rule of law. And yes, there is a dissenting opinion written by Justice Sotomayor. And a lot of people are getting excited about that as well, because one of the things that she mentioned in it is that semi-automatic rifles like AR-15s are common and common use, right? Heller. So does that mean that because of her dissenting opinion that AR-15s now will be considered in common use and that they can't do assault weapon bans anymore? We'll see. Not necessarily. They don't usually use dissenting opinions to set precedent for things like that. It is obvious to probably you and definitely me that AR-15s are in common use and shouldn't be able to be regulated like that. But so are SBRs and suppressors then. And so, and we've talked about that many times on the channel here. But hopefully we'll get some case to the Supreme Court about those things, because honestly, there's absolutely no reason for SBRs and suppressors to be regulated any more than any other common firearms. But that's also not really the point of this video. The point is that we've had a couple of big wins that should be celebrated. And I know that a lot of times, being a firearm owner, it seems like they're constantly coming after us. Us that are just law-abiding citizens that would never hurt anybody unless they were trying to hurt us. But they want to make the things that we own illegal, retroactively usually, and make us felons for owning things that are perfectly legal firearms. And to be quite fair, machine guns are also perfectly legal. You know, a lot of people think that machine guns are an illegal thing, but they're not. They're just an NFA item, just like a short-barreled rifle or a suppressor. It's just that no new machine guns have been produced since 1986. Well, they have, post-ban dealer samples. But as far as transferable, privately owned machine guns, they put a stop to that in 1986. And so the only reason that machine guns are so rarely owned is because they're so rare. There's not very many of them out there. I mean, there's actually a lot of them out there, but there's no new ones. And so in order to own a machine gun, all you really have to do is pay for a $200 tax stamp, the same way that you would for a suppressor or an SBR. But you also have to have, between $20,000 and $100,000 to buy a transferable pre-ban machine gun. That's the thing. And machine guns should be totally legal. Everyone should be able to have them. Whether that you think that they are the most effective thing or not, and honestly, probably semi-automatic is more effective for, like I said, precise, accurate fire. But we should all be allowed to own the same firearms that the military owns. That's kind of the point of the Second Amendment. But you and me, we all know this already. Point is, we've had a couple of big wins. Celebrate them. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Do you think that, that the pistol brace rule will be totally dead? Because it's kind of looking that way right now. Yes, we are still going to hear arguments about it, but it has been vacated by Judge Reed O'Connor. And really, every single case that we've seen about it has gone our way. But it hasn't gone our way on Second Amendment grounds. It's been on the grounds of the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, and the fact that the rule is arbitrary, capricious, and also vague, and that the rule that they actually promulgated was not the same as what they said that the rule was going to be. It wasn't a logical outgrowth. And so, technically, the ATF could just come out with a new pistol brace rule, and as long as the rule matches what they say it's going to be, well, that's what took down this pistol brace rule, was that it wasn't what they said it was going to be. Now, maybe then we would win on Second Amendment grounds. It seems like they're willing to put in the time and the effort. against these things. And a big problem with the way our system works is that the ATF is able to make these rule changes, and then those rules basically go into effect and things become illegal until it gets worked out in the court. And so they can keep doing this and just keep throwing things at the wall until something sticks. And it's really unfortunate that we have to constantly fight these things even when we know that they are BS, and that even when the ATF knows that they'll get beat in court, they don't really have any repercussions to do unconstitutional rulemaking that makes perfectly legal things illegal until the courts tell them that they're wrong. But at least right now, the courts are telling them that they're wrong, and that is a good thing. And I just wanted to let you guys all know that, in case you hadn't seen it before, or at least get my perspective on it. I appreciate every one of you guys that watches the channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking, sharing. Thank you for leaving comments. All of that stuff really helps the algorithm. From Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.